Welcome, everybody, to the second period of review podcast for 2014. This week, we are doing second edition. Joining me is Nick Yankovic, 2E brand manager.
Hi.
Matt Kirk, creative director.
Hey, everybody.
John Corbett, the Errata team lead and assistant designer.
Thanks for having me on. I don't have a bottom third because I don't believe in fancy titles. So
it's a lower third, not a bottom third.
You can take Alan's word for that. I'm John Corbett.
And Tyler Fultz, rules team manager.
Hey.
So to start us off, Nick is the senior guy in the room. So tell us how 2014 went.
Okay. Very briefly. We've had, over the past year, 2 new sets, Return to Grace and Balance of Terror. And while there's been some controversy, I think they've both gone down pretty well. We've introduced the Errata team and started bringing in Errata, including the public watch list. We currently have Project Donna's in testing. Project Amy is in design, so it's all go that way. We've had a pretty good turnout at Worlds this year, and on the whole, I think it's been a very productive, very useful year. There's been a few issues which we'll probably come to in the questions, but yeah, it's been a good year.
All right. Well, we got a good chunk of questions from the forums, and we will keep an eye on the chat room in case there's any last-minute ones. So let's start with one for. There's a question about John Corbett and the Errata team lead. Originally, it was listed as being a 6-month job, and folks are asking if he's continuing past that, if the rules are changing.
Shall I answer that one, John?
Well, it really is a question for you. Yeah, I mean, when you guys came to me for the job, that was the one caveat that it was a 6-month term limit, which was new for a CC position. But
yeah.
I try to take that one personally. But I don't know. I would set up for another 6 months if I was asked. But I don't know. We have people who can do the job.
Yeah, the original idea was to have a rotating team, which I still plan to have. I've already got a couple of people that are going to be coming in and probably leaving. I just don't think, in hindsight, that replacing everyone every 6 months is the best idea, really. And John's been doing a very good job, and so is the rest of the Errata team. So at the moment, we'll keep them as they are. May get replaced in future. We'll have to wait and see, really.
All right. There was a question here for, nice simple one here for Nick. There was someone asking exactly what does a brand manager do?
That's a good question. So a brand manager, it's something I'd probably call more a project manager. Overseeing all the set designs, overseeing all the second edition departments, including rules, errata, design, creative, and art, as they relate to 2E. Yeah, that's it really. Setting the spoiler schedules. It's a fair bit of work.
He's the one who yells at us when we don't have stuff on time.
Keeps the shit moving. That's his job.
Yeah, thanks. A project manager. So trying to keep everyone going.
All right. There was a note here just on Phase 2 development, and I'm just trying to find it here. Scrolled. Oh, Charlie. Somebody had mentioned that Charlie says it usually takes 6 months for the impact of a new expansion to be felt in the meta. So, what do you guys think about the reception and impact of Return to Grace?
Well, there's no such thing as the meta. That's a weird thing to say. There's metas. That's the whole point of the word. But yeah, it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year to. It takes a cycle of championship season to see what a set does.
I think there was a lot of initial freak out about the new Bajor, and oh my God, Bajorans are going to run away with it, and we didn't see them at Worlds this year, so maybe people haven't figured them out yet. I don't know. There's a deck out there. I've seen it. It's pretty good. Nobody's really playing it, so I don't know.
Okay. Nick, did you have something?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm just yeah, I mean, they did finish 7th at Worlds. I believe John got beaten by a Bajoran deck.
Nice. Thanks, Nick. My grandmother died last week. You want to bring that up too? Come on.
You know, they're doing pretty well. I think they've always been good, but they're probably definitely tier 1 now. Although some people don't like the way they work.
I think we should be focusing on. I think we should be focusing on future design questions than past design questions. We had a Worlds in the whole championship season without. We had Romulan dominance for Continentals, but we didn't have anything broken. So I think design, anything that's being done. I mean, we could critique it a little bit, but anything we're talking about today should be future.
Well, I think
know it's year review.
I think the biggest impact that Return to Grace and Balanced Terror had, well, not Balanced Terror, but Return to Grace had, was that we didn't see a lot of board. There was a little bit, but we didn't see. It wasn't like, you know, top 4 were all board or all Klingon, and you know, the fact that Maquis was able to walk away with it was just, you know, that kind of spoke to people searching for new and different stuff, which is what I think the point of Phase 2 was. So I would call that a success.
I think actually I would say in some ways it's a failure because the only thing it added to Cardassian was a cheesy mission. Really nothing too creative. I think it was hard to give Cardassian something new and fresh, and it kind of really didn't do that. It kind of just gave him a little bit of cheese. So I mean, I like new Bajor, something fresh and interesting, but I think it just didn't make up for it on the Cardassian side.
Okay, there's a follow-up question on that. There were some folks asking about Phase 2 design, and the concern was, are we setting up all the factions that they do one thing? For instance, they're saying, you know, is DS9 Earth just going to be the conspiracy guys? And
no, the whole from the creative side, I can tell you there are there are certainly distinct themes that are supposed to be reflected in the cards for each of the factions, and just because DS9 Earth's conspiracy theme showed up in Balance of Terror, no, that's not going to be what they're relegated to. That will be one of their things. So, I mean, as Phase 2 starts rolling out more and more, we'll start seeing the scope of what each of the headquarters is going to be capable of.
Factions basically have like a primary ability, a secondary ability, and then some tertiary stuff. Like Dominion has capture, like that little bit of capture, so you can call that like a tertiary thing. And then you have things they don't do, like Cardassians don't have anything to do with the discard pile, like the Bajorans, and that's their primary. So the answer is kind of yes to the question. Primary, secondaries, and whatnot.
okay, I've got a whole pile of Errata team questions, so I'm kind of
Really?
store those all up. Practically do a lightning round on those things.
Yeah, sure. Fire them up.
Okay, so there was... Where was the first one there? They were asking about... okay, here was an easy one. Is the public watch list just or is there concerns that the public watch list is being used as the, hey, these are really good cards, go play these before they go away?
No, that's just how do I put this diplomatically? That's a very, I guess that's a paranoid way to look at it. I mean, if you're looking for cheese, I guess you can go to the watch list, but it takes a certain mind to exploit cards in an absurd way, so that's not really a concern.
All right. Why was Chula the game removed from the watch list? No reason given for its removal.
It got through Worlds, and it got through North America Continentals, maybe the other ones. I don't know if those Continentals took place before that set dropped, but and it got through Worlds, and if it was going to get busted up, if it was going to get broken, it would have got broken there. That's how new stuff is, most likely to get broken when it drops. So, I mean, I should have listed a reason for that because it ran the gauntlet. It got tested out, and I don't think no one else in the Errata team thought that it was an issue.
No, there was no issues raised at all with it, was there?
What's that?
Nobody raised any concerns at all with it.
No, the only concern is the overcosted stuff. That's a rules question. That's a rules issue, not an Errata question. That you can get an effect for playing an overcosted dilemma, but that's not my department.
That brings up a good one here. There's a question so I was asking about the interplay of design and rules, where there's been cases of handful of cards get released, and then they come out, and then they get errated or ruled, and they're now doing something different than what they said, which I believe, Nullgate's a different follow action from that one. So there was a question of, when this happens, either rules needs to say it works as designed, or design needs to change it to work as intended, but neither one does, so what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
The intent is always that rules will respect the intent of the card. When guys on the rules committee want to make the argument that a card shouldn't work the way it's intended, I push back very hard on that. And really put the burden of proof on them to prove that it, has to follow precedent and work a different way. And obviously that should get worked out through playtesting. In the event that it doesn't, which is what did happen with nonlinear existence, a card change may be necessary. But that's obviously the exception and not what we're shooting for.
All right. Another one that came up was...
Sorry, can I just add that slightly?
Of course.
I was just going to say that there has been a slight issue with design the cards. Rules tend to go away and look at them separately. Not so much the last set where Tyler was doing both. But one thing I would like to do in the future is to coordinate those two departments better, so rules understand what the design intents are. I don't think that's always happening at the moment, which is why we get the occasional contradiction between the two departments. So going forward, that's something I'd like to work on and fix.
Real quick, how come this can't be taken care of ahead of time? Why can't the set be proofread before it drops?
No, exactly. Yeah. When it goes to design, I want to do something so rules understand exactly what design are asking them to look at before it goes to proofreading and art, etc.
All right. Another card on the Errata questions was Ruling Council. Why have you left Terok Nor dead in the water?
That's a stupid question. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
That's a Tyler question.
So the full post was, I like Phase 2, but I'm concerned that the current errata of Ruling Council will leave Terok Nor dead in the water. It deprives them of an easy 2-mission win, which always seemed to equal out their speed disadvantage. All the new stuff with the Dilemma pile doesn't seem to give them the needed speed advantage. Can you please explain how you came to the conclusion that this was necessary?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, that was a Phase 2 errata. That came from the top. Part of Phase 2, this is per Charlie, that if something's in the way, it's going to get the hell out of the way. And Ruling Counselor was in the way. And I agree with them on that one.
We were adding a whole bunch of new ammunition to Terok Nor's chest, so we didn't want them to have Ruling Council there and all the new stuff that we were giving them as well. Additionally, Ruling Council felt very unfocused in the way it was point gaining. They were essentially getting 10 points just for playing an interrupt and doing things they were already going to do, like solving. So we wanted their point gain to be more thematic than that.
it was a peak performance card, and peak performance cards are bad. We can just be honest about it. Sorry, Brad. Hopefully you come on the discard pile and tell me I'm wrong. But all right, that's what it was. It's, it's going to be a lot of peak performance 2.0. It's just it happens all the time. It pops up. It goes to peak performance. There's always going to be cards that pop up, and it is what it is. We got to fix them when they pop up.
All right. Well, this segues nicely. Someone was asking if you guys could talk about the thought process that goes to the Phase 2 designs for each allegiance. Did you assign them things you wanted to do? They compare it to the Magic color wheel, which is kind of the generic form of that.
I think that was basically, I don't know about a blueprint, but that was definitely a starting point for Charlie, where he wanted to start from as far as defining. I mean, this was more than a year ago. He set out a list of, here are the factions, what attributes go with which ones, and some of them overlap. I mean, a lot of the Federation stuff, they solve missions, but DS9 has their protect conspiracy, lots of events in the core, and TNG has their cheat during mission attempts. But yeah, I mean, yes. Short answer, yes. That was a starting point from which we wanted to start defining each of the affiliations with their mechanics.
Well, Matt's right, but also it was established even early on in 2E what each affiliation, what they were supposed to do, the do's and don'ts, like I mentioned earlier, and design got away from that. So yeah, they're using Magic as a template. Not that I'm thrilled when I see Magic ideas, but we're just getting back to the roots, and that's.
Well, I think even aside from, I mean, Decipher did have a vague idea of, we want Cardassians to pitch a bunch of stuff to get their bonus. We want Bajorans to be able to do stuff with discard pile. And it was sort of loosely defined, and like Romulans had this whole cloaking device, can't use skills thing that never really worked. So I think the intention with Phase 2 is to kind of go back, retool stuff so that it makes sense within the context of the game now. Go forward and make fun cards that can translate all those different.
It's have to feel like Cardassians have to feel Cardassian. Romulans have to feel Romulan.
Yeah.
All right. Then that leads into, how is Phase 2 supposed to change the game when there's no rotation? So, let's see, just to sum this up a bit, it's if we're defining what each affiliation does, how do we reconcile that with the fact that everybody already has a bunch of old cards that do completely different things?
More cards. More cards is always good. I don't see the problem. I mean, you're just adding. I don't know. I'm anti-rotation. I've always have been, always will be. That's just not what Trek is. Every Trek is just it's a house of cards, and then when it all falls apart, like it did in 1E, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I don't think adding more flavor, and that's what Phase 2 is all about, flavor. We're not. There's going to be powerful cards, but the more powerful the card is, the more affiliation specific it's going to be. So, I mean, I don't see. Yeah. So what? You add some old cards that might have been a little bit different to the flavor you got. It is what it is.
There's nothing to say we couldn't go back and errata old cards to do stuff that Phase 2 is supposed to be reflecting. So. Well,
a little bit. Only things that are in the way, and then like a bad rivalry card, like all the bad ones from Premier, like Unseen Manipulations. I don't even know why I remember that, but I mean, we're not gonna redesign. That's one thing we don't do in the Errata team. That happens sometimes.
Well, I'm just saying that possibilities, while it's not currently a design mandate, it's not to say that couldn't happen in the future if, the complaint is, oh, well, we have all these old cards that do weird old things, and we have all these new cards that do new things, and they don't agree. So, one of the solutions could be go back, update the old card with new.
Well, I don't know. That's a whole debate right there. I would only errata a card if it was preventing future design. Going back and changing things. I don't know. I don't have a time machine, man. I don't have a DeLorean.
Well, I was just addressing the question where rotation's not an option. Another way to approach it would be what I said.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's. I'm just, that's a whole other debate.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just spitballing. I mean, yes, rotation is an answer, but the other question is, how do you make that list? Do we start a 2EX list? What? And that's a whole thing that OP would have to completely restructure the tournament formats and whatever.
I don't think we ever have to get to that point. I don't think we ever have to get. Maybe I'm an optimist. Look at it. It happened suddenly today. I don't believe we ever need an X list. We don't ever need set rotation.
I agree. I
think we're smart enough to fix the problems. And 2E it's still a solid game. We had Worlds was fine. Clean. Well, it was a clean tournament, and I don't think we're everything's fine. I don't know anybody who thinks there's something. I mean, there's always going to be cards that are keep an eye on. That's what you do. Phase two is just gonna add some flavor, man. Gotta spice it up a little bit. Give it, make things feel, because everything got generic. It happened. Everything got generic. How many times you see these are the voyages?
And to that point, I mean, me personally as a player, I'd like to see Academy come back as like a main format, so that you ditch all the old cheesy cards and now you're focusing just on virtuals.
Academy got killed because of teams. But yeah, phase two, if you get more stuff back in, it might be able to make it refresh the format.
All right, I got one more phase two question. They're asking, what lessons for phase two were learned in Balance of Terror?
Mr. Mute.
Probably a bit early to answer that one at the moment.
I have one answer. We're not going to make any more generic Vorta because we're kind of out of them.
We're out of Vorta? No, don't tell me we're out of Vorta.
Yeah, we kind of are.
Slow them. You can never be out of Vorta. We'll just use the same picture, like annexation drone. Just keep running the picture. I don't care. I'm never going to run out of Vorta.
Okay, let's see. Moving on, we had some questions on teams. Here's a nice background one. Where did the team concept originate, and will teams be the MO moving forward?
I have no idea where teams originated. Whose idea that was?
Well, I mean, there were teams in the Decipher era. I mean, like, Cadets was a team.
No, teams have... Gatherers are not a team. Cadets aren't a team. Teams have a generic mechanic. That's how you define it.
How is Cadet not a team? Their mechanic is all the same. They face a dilemma, they gain skills and attributes. That's not...
Well, I don't know if that's a mechanic. Mechanics are like...
How is that not a mechanic?
Funny word.
It's not a mechanic.
Okay. Obviously, we have different definitions of the word mechanic as it relates to the card game.
That's true. Well, maybe we do. There's a lot. We got to understand we do have a whole new influx in design. Guys like me, Tyler, Nick, we weren't around back, the early CC era of design, and that's where teams came from. And I don't want to shit on my predecessors, but I think teams are lazy design. I'm well known for hating on teams, so as far as any set I'm working on won't have them.
I think the lesson has been learned with making related personnel not feel like a team so much as making cards that will synergize with each other and not actually calling them, a team. I mean, we did that. We consciously did that in creative. The first set where I came on was the set with the holograms, and it would have been really easy just to say, holographic leader, holographic doctor, and we made an effort to parse them out and say, okay, yes, obviously these are meant to work together, but we're kind of moving away, or we're kind of evolving the idea of what a team is supposed to be. So, and they work, together well, and they work in other decks too. So.
I don't know. I think we should just bury the team. Just forget about it. The ones that are out and are part of the game. But we should bury it. We should put it in the ground. Put it to rest. We're better than teams. We're better than that. We can design better. We can build better worlds.
All right. So then this will go into the complaint part of teams. When people started complaining about teams from the personnel angle stopped appearing in new sets. Now we have whole sets that are just one team. We're just making entire sets of teams. Teams never went away. Why can't we make sets that contain single utility cards? Why does there always need to be a team?
There hasn't been a team in the last. There hasn't been a team in the last couple of expansions.
They're saying that Paranoia Earth is basically a team.
Well, they don't know what they're talking about. Teams, you gotta have. There's the removed from game Enterprise. You got the damaged Enterprise. You got the Klingon Romulans. You got who am I forgetting? The Cardassian Grumal people. Those are teams. A new keyword doesn't mean a team. A new cards that go together aren't a team. Like I ran on the board. Enterprise past Enterprise C people. They're not a team. Just because if they key off each other, that's not a team. The teams have an overall Grumal discarding ships. Future Enterprise, removing from game. You got to have a specific mechanic. There hasn't been that. There has been no teams in the last couple of expansions.
Well, there have been sets of related cards, and I think that's what the person who asked the question was implying, was that do we always have to have a set that focuses on a central theme, whether it is a new team or whether it's cards that work together? Because it does take up more design space if you're going to try to make a new.
So what do they want? They want cards? Just cards?
Let me finish.
Sorry.
The question was, why do we have to dedicate so much design space to these new ways to define the affiliations or a new sub-faction? It's like, well, okay, yes, to actually be able to flesh out the idea of we want to create a new type of deck. Yes, you need to commit 8, 9, 10 cards to it to be able to actually have enough, rather than just be a splash in an old deck to make a new deck. Yes, you have to be able to do that. So should that be the MO going forward? I mean, not all the time. I think there's room for general utility cards, but the problem is, if you make a card like These Are the Voyages that everybody can use, then everybody's going to use it, and then we're going to hear complaints about, whoa, this is in every deck. Why did you guys make this card? So,
yeah, haven't we had enough generic?
I've got a question came in from the chat room. Does KillerB want cards that punish teams?
No, I always want hammers, but no, not teams. There's nothing to can't really punish a team. I don't know how you would do that, but I'm well known, and a few people that work with me that that's when me and Charlie have our best fights in our design meetings, when I'm trying to pitch a hammer to him and his head just gets all mad, like scanners, and his head explodes.
There's a few cards that punish cadets already, so I mean, they exist. They're out there. You've got the anti-Klingon dilemma, so.
The short answer is I want to punish everything. That's just me. That's just my general. Someone's got to be the enforcer in design. Someone's got to. All
right. Let's go switch. We've got a couple of rules questions here, so we'll give the design folks a break. One is, local group is currently debating on whether to apply for playtesting. Can we elaborate a little on what's required of playtesters beyond what's already written on the website?
Right, so that's more of a me question than the rules question. Playtesting, ideally 3 or 4 people that can commit one evening a week, maybe 2 weeks, but preferably a week, to playing with the new cards and giving us a report the following Monday or Tuesday. It's pretty much as written on the website, really.
Can I jump in there, Nick?
Yeah.
I think one aspect of playtesting that doesn't really get talked about until after you've done it a little bit is you don't really play full games. You kind of set up hands, like you get your worst case scenario hand, you get your best case scenario hand, and you kind of, you play little bits of games and you try and collect data that way rather than, we play an hour. What did you feel like? Okay, well, I mean, you do that closer to the end as the cards are reaching their final state, and you want to see what the full game impact is. But it's a lot of, you play this and I play this, and what's the best card that can go with it. So it's not nearly as glamorous, but it's certainly necessary for the game. And we want as many playtesters as we can get. So if you guys are at all interested, you should definitely apply.
Yeah, but before you apply it, make sure you've got the time to do it. We've had quite a few playtesters that have been joined up, done 1 or 2 reports, and then vanished. I want some, we want people that are dedicated and willing to put the time and effort into it.
All right. The other straight-up rules question I got here is, what's the status on an updated rulebook?
I've submitted the draft, and that's pending.
And that's with me and the proofreaders at the moment.
All right.
KillerB's rulebook will be the Old Testament, and Tyler's rulebook will be the New Testament, and then we'll
Okay. I got a cryptic one here, and I'll be honest, I'm hoping this makes more sense to you guys than it does to me. The question is, you've done discards and you've done dilemmas. Why not both?
I think that question is about Phase 2 design. Return to Grace focusing on the discard pile, and Balance of Terror focusing on dilemmas. I'm not sure why we wouldn't focus one expansion on each.
Yeah, there were dilemmas in Return to Grace.
All right.
So,
The question, though, was what's next, right?
Or it sounded like it was the you've done A and you've done B. Are you going to do A and B?
No, we got other shit to do. That's the short answer.
All right. Oh, I got another playtester question here.
It's okay. We can bleep that out.
Hey, you invited me.
What would you like to be able to give as a reward to the best of the best playtesters?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. No, Nick's got a point. I'm gonna rant for a second. We got a severe lack of playtesters, and Nick's right. People with good intentions start, and then they disappear. When you're a volunteer in this committee in any capacity, the work is the reward. Your only reward is a job well done, and someone says thank you. There's never going to be rewards for playtesters, really. There's just not. I don't understand this concept. You don't really. We're all volunteers. You don't get anything. So, it is online playtesting. That's not going anywhere. We have a responsibility as not to sound too dramatic, but as stewards of the game, not to put out shit. And we did that with Peak Performance, and it takes a long time to recover from a really bad set. And if we don't get more playtesters, this is gonna be an unpopular idea. We need to scale back the number of cards in a set down to 36, maybe 27. It sounds bad, but we can't. Without playtesters, we should not be putting out 54 card sets. It's not responsible. I hope we get more playtesters, but people have to know the job they're signing up for, and that's it. Just if you want to do it, do it. If not, we're gonna have to scale back the work.
I think a cool reward for the playtesters would be some kind of, continuing committee only promo, not something that we construct and give to you, but like a file that's got, thanks for playtesting, and it's, just an AI of some card from the set that they help playtest. I think that would be a cool idea. I don't know exactly how feasible that would be, but just, something that they can have that's not publicly released, so that people know that they were helping to make a set good.
Let's see, we got here. I got a whole bunch of questions, so let's tackle this. I've probably got half a dozen questions about Nullgate.
No one's used the card. No one's used the card since it came out, and people are still going goofy. I don't understand. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go give me the questions.
Okay. So, Creative Commons. Basically, it sounds. I think I can sum them all up on. Do we have any lessons learned on the Great Nullgate?
We already covered that. We covered that with the proofreading, with the set. before they come out. So that question, we have to tackle those problems before they happen.
Rules has added a couple of new members to the committee, and those new members have been really sharp, and I think that's going to help us avoid those issues in the future.
Okay. Yeah, there's the general question I was looking for. It was, what efforts have been or will be undertaken to reconcile design intent with rules implementation in the future? Is there anything specific to add to that? Or?
There's a system we use called Utopia Planitia to do sort of design and playtesting and communicate between the different teams that are working on cards. And design with the upcoming sets is doing a better job of putting into that system what their intent is with each card. So we know that going into the rules and the creative review.
Okay.
And I think, as I mentioned earlier, that's something I'd like to make a bit more stable in the future. Make sure that design and rules do understand what both are looking at.
All right. Okay, I got a couple other rules ones here. Is there an overall governing philosophy that drives rulings or rules changes? If so, what is it? If not, why not?
I hope it's common sense.
I mean, the goal is always to simplify the rule structure and make things easier for players, particularly for new ones. So, I think we're going to try and do more things like we did with the equipment ruling and the hard time archer streamlining to eliminate some of those weird sort of trip you up kind of points that 2E has had for a while.
That's a good answer. And I said before that I wasn't really qualified to design until I taught my daughter how to play this game. And I asked myself, what would a 10-year-old think, or 11-year-old, when they see this card? And the same thing applies to rules. Yeah, you always got to think of the new player, the young player. Would this confuse the shit out of somebody? And if the answer is yes, you should probably clean it up.
Okay. Related to that is, how are discussions and debates, handled within the Rules Committee when controversial questions are posed?
I think, well, hopefully without any name calling. Generally, it's just people discussing on the boards and putting forth their best arguments.
Okay. And then there's a question for Matt about, where does creative get inserted into the design process? And is there a difference in the top-down versus the bottom-up philosophies?
Creative sees a set probably, I want to say, 6 to 8 weeks into the design process after it's gone to the playtesters for a while. We give art directions about, we submit a title and lore, and we ask art, we want to see A, B, and C, and then they bring it back. So, I mean, about 2/3 of the way into the process, I'd say, is where creative steps in. As far as top-down design versus bottom-up, on occasion, design has asked, what story could we put on a card that we haven't seen yet that might be cool and fits this kind of general idea, but not really. If they have a top-down design, we generally leave it as is. I'm trying to think of. I
do a lot of top-down, so yeah.
From Balance of Terror, the Weak Will Perish is really the only 8472 dilemma that doesn't really fit the kind of theme of the rest of the other ones. The other ones are personnel shots, and they have to do with the characters in that one episode with the biosphere and all that. And Weak Will Perish was a very specific directive from design saying, we want this picture, we want it to be this, and so we said, okay, it's going to be the one that sticks out, but it's not a big deal. But occasionally stuff happens like that, and we usually let them have their way. Every once in a while, I'll pitch Charlie a better idea, and he'll go with it. So.
Okay. I actually have a question on the 8472. They're asking, will the victory condition be addressed with respect to the impact on tournament scoring? And then as related, what was design's intent with this victory condition?
First of all, it's OP will be dealing with the final victory conditions on that, the organised play department, not the 2E team.
Yeah, so probably the question for you guys would be, when you wrote it, what did you think was going to happen?
I mean, you win the game is you get 100 points, is the way we've interpreted it.
The standing precedent in OP for a Phoenix win, or not Phoenix win, a Quark's Treasure win or whatever, has been 100-0. I mean, that's been the established precedent. Whether or not we want to stick with that, that's not really my department. I think it's fine, but you know.
Yeah, that's the answer. Is you win the game the same as you lose the game? We have to just make that the same thing. 100 points, and then whatever the opponent scored, make that the differential. The opponent shouldn't lose their points. That makes no sense. So OP needs to just clean it up. Design, that probably didn't even come into their minds how it would be scored. That's an organized play issue. Design doesn't have to think about how differential or that kind of stuff. That's all organized play.
All right. Let's see. Oh, last year Johnny mentioned he would like to release sets with other than a multiple of 9 cards. So basically, it's what is your guys' opinion on releasing sets that have blank spaces on the page?
Sure. if there's a good reason to do so. I mean, the intention was that we wanted to, be somewhat conscious of supplies. If people were, we didn't want to waste people's paper and stuff. So I mean, we try to fill out. But I mean, if I don't want to go to 3 cards on a page, but if there's 8 rather than 9 or even 7, okay. If there's a good reason why 2 cards have to get cut and we don't want to just put 2 filler cards in a set, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, I'd like to keep it to multiples of 9 if we can, but yeah, it's not set. I mean, we've now started to reduce set sizes anyway. The latest one was 45 instead of 54. And if there aren't enough cards to fill 9 spaces on a sheet, then we'll make it less.
Okay. I got another department question here. It was someone talking. They're talking about USS Relativity with temporal transporters as a problematic card in deck type, and this person's saying that their thoughts and arguments were disregarded by the Errata team on the grounds that it's a design issue. So the question is, when a new card is released, where is the line drawn between a design issue and an Errata issue?
Errata is metaphor here. Errata, we put out wildfires, so that's after the fact. Errata is always after the fact. So since I was on the design team that came out with Relativity, people like it. It's people who play it enjoy playing it. And at Worlds, it was played a good amount. There was no problems. There's something you always have to keep an eye on when designing a blue card, but it's up to the designers now to keep playtesters to something you have to deal with. That's a bad side effect, but I guess the rewards outweigh the risk.
I think to more specifically answer the question, Errata is not really part of the process as designing rules. Finish a card off. And Errata only really has input after a set's released and the impact is seen. So I guess that's the line that's drawn.
We put out fires. It's not about after a set comes out. It could be any card. It could be a card from Premiere. It doesn't really make a difference.
The question was talking about when a set comes out, where do the 2 paths intersect, and that would be my
answer. Nowhere. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Here, we'll tackle these ones because they're not the Martha Stewart questions. They're the Glenn Beck questions, I think, here. Both of them are obviously for John. So this is word for word how they're written down here. The naming of the public watch list implies that there's a private one. Is that the case?
Yes, there's John Corbett's personal hit list, and slowly and surely, I will Like the Illuminati and the Masons, we have secret handshakes, and we do now. Of course, now we don't. There's no private watch list. There's no one we keep in our boards. What you see is what you get. It's are there cards we talk about ahead of time? Well, yeah, but they're not on the watch list yet. There's no secret list.
Okay. The other half of that is, why is membership in the Errata team private when its existence is for transparency?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. Finally, when I thought I was going to assemble the team, I just assumed it was going to be public. Unlike rules, this is before Tyler. This is Keller's Secret Cabal when it was every top secret who was on the rules team. And then after it started, Charlie told me everyone was going to be secret, and I was like, no, it worked like that.
Oh, John, we're losing you.
Or
Okay, I thought that was just me. I'm glad.
uh-oh, am I back now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay, where did I drop off at? Anyway, it was going to be. I assumed it was going to be public. Everybody on the team. Then Charlie told me it was going to be top secret. I said no. I said I'll leave it up to the people, and only Ben Haas decided to not give a crap. And so it's up to the people. It's up to what they want to deal with. The headaches of, if they're only going to stay in it for 6 months, then why step out? It's up to them. That's the bottom line.
I think Charlie's idea behind that was just so people don't get pestered by certain players. For Errata, that's.
Yeah, there's always going to be some people. That's just how it is. There's some people who don't want to deal with the internet people going crazy, and some people who just don't care who can deal with it.
All right, and then we'll finish off with a couple of the fishing for spoilers type questions. Will the Klingons ever be in the spotlight?
Yes.
Under phase 2, everyone's going to get their day in the sun. Now, will it be bright like Bajorans or dark like Cardassians? That's up to each set.
All right. One from the chat room here. Would you like to see an ultimate hammer where if you XYZ ABC to make the opponent either lose 50 points or undo a mission solve?
No. There should not be feel bad situations in the game that severe. In my opinion, I wouldn't like to see that.
There's a reason why we have 2E, not 1E anymore.
Yes.
That's
when you get 2E Supernova, I'm out.
I want a black hole. I want 2E black hole. I want to suck up planets.
All right, and could you lay out plans for 2015? We know Donna will focus on the Dominion and DS9, but nothing beyond that. What will the focus be?
Sorry, I missed that, sorry.
Oh. They were asking for plans for 2015.
Well, we've got the Project Donna's been worked on now, as John will tell you. That's in play testing. We've got Project Amy is currently in design, which should be going to play testing at the end of the year. Project Rory will be kick off in design beginning of next year. And John might be pleased to hear that will be the last Doctor Who reference. And in between that, we might have something a little bit special, but you have to wait to hear about that.
Oh, there's going to be a 20th anniversary, whatever the hell it is. We all know. Why are people, you and Charlie, always being coy? You're going to get something.
That's November, the 20th anniversary, in case anyone's interested.
All right, and that brings us to the end of the questions that were sent in. So we'll just run around the room here and we'll ask the question of what question were you expecting to be asked and an answer? Oh, sorry.
Oh, go on. Sorry, carry on.
No problem. So just to say that again, we'll just go around and get everyone to answer the question they were expecting to get asked. And we will start with Tyler, because he's gotten to be the quiet one today.
So we're asking what questions did I want to answer that weren't asked?
expect.
Yeah, like, what question were you expecting to get asked?
No, that pretty much covers it.
All right. John?
Well, I don't know about any questions. I wasn't, I can usually fill things on the quick. One thing we didn't have a lot of those questions were sent in after this meeting was announced a while back, but nothing really sent in since the other period of review with our executive tag team of Charlie and Neil, and where a lot of Charlie was selling the fourth man design, and so there was no really questions about that, which I would expect. And honestly, I'm not a fan of this idea, but I'm really not a fan of any of Charlie's ideas when they come out, like Phase 2, but I got sold. The fourth man, I'm not going to, it's going to be hard, and I'm going to be perfectly frank. Logistically, we haven't had a Project Donna meeting in over 2 months. I mean, we were hitting it hard when we first started, but Charlie started a new job. We've had logistic problems just getting together. And adding a fourth man, just adding more logistics and more problems. And I know it was sold as a fail-safe, like if the fourth person flakes out or isn't good, everything's going to be fine. I don't think more chefs is the answer. Me and Nick had a meeting with Charlie well over a year ago where I suggested smaller teams, two-man teams with a lead design who picks from the work, and that was shot down. I think we need less. I think we need smaller focused teams, not just more chefs in the kitchen. And finally, we already addressed the playtest problem, and the first person Charlie's going to pull out for the fourth man is probably our best playtester. So we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that's it. I hope whoever gets tapped to be a next lead can prove me wrong, but we gotta figure out what we're going to do. I think we need less. I'm for austerity. I think we need smaller sets unless we get more playtesters. I think we need smaller design teams that work more closely. But that's it. Sorry to be negative, but hopefully we get those straightened out.
All right, Matt.
What question was I expecting? I don't really know. I guess I could have gotten into why certain elements of Balance of Terror got chosen in the dilemmas rather than others, because we certainly could have gone a different route with the 8472 stuff. But we're going to back pocket that concept for later, I hope. So, I don't know. Yeah, that's about it. But I'm seeing Altoid's question on the chat room. I'm going to toss that in real quick. If I could borrow elements from other games, which element would I love to incorporate into TUI? I would like to bring Star Wars objectives into TUI somehow. And I haven't really made any... I've said that for a while, that TUI could easily support an objective to replace a mission.
Matt, yeah, I've never met Matt. This has been Matt. I know. I cry on the inside, but I don't know if we're there yet. That's all. I'm being positive. I don't know if we're there yet, but.
I didn't say it would work. I just said I think I would love to incorporate it into TUI. Take it or leave it.
All right. Does anybody else have a element they want to steal for TUI?
Did we steal enough magic to TUI? Haven't we done enough commodities? All this. I think we've done enough importing. We need to focus on that's what Phase 2 is about. Getting back to the fundamentals of affiliation specific. Like, TUI's a good game. We don't need other games. We've learned a lesson. It's second edition. We took we got a lot of good stuff and bad stuff in 1E, and we made a new game. We don't need to take in Pokemon and Magic and all this other stuff.
Well, wait a minute. You said commodities were from Magic?
Are they? Where are they from?
No. As far as I'm pretty up to date on Magic, and I don't know of any mechanic in Magic where you get a bonus for somebody else having your card. Aside, they're mostly in Magic. Those are downsides, but I think what I was meant to say was I think commodities was an original TUI thing. So.
All right, and finally, Nick. Anything else you want to cover?
Yes. one thing I was expecting to have asked was about rules and the change to equipment and the change to the bold skill requirements. No one asked about that.
Alright, do you want to talk about them for a minute?
Yeah, I just wondered if Tyler wanted to explain why they changed the skill requirements, in the equipment.
The equipment was a gap. There was legitimate question as to what constituted affecting a personnel. If a personnel is involved in any kind of random selection in any theoretical game state, does that qualify as affecting them, and therefore can they be equipped with it? And so as a result of that confusion, we felt it would be better for players and for the game to just say, you know what, if you have an equipment, you are equipped with it. I think that was a pretty no-brainer call right there. The change to the skill dilemmas was another effort just to simplify. A lot of new players and a lot of people were getting tripped up by the fact that there were dilemmas in the game that had the word skill in bold on them, and yet somehow weren't skill dilemmas. And that was a ruling that we had left over from the Keller days, and the more we looked at it, the more we thought that it needed to be reversed.
Yeah.
Streamlining rules is never a bad thing.
Let's see. Altoid is, I think, lobbying for pod racing.
We'll put that in the next Voyager set. We'll have the little race around the Delta Quadrant thing. Yeah, okay. We'll do that.
He should worry about 74-year-old Harrison Ford busting his old ass on the Millennium Falcon. He's got other problems to worry about. I can't wait till Abrams takes a shit on that franchise after when he did a Trek. That son of a... Never mind, I'm sorry. I met my quota. I've met my limit of cuss words today.
You're wrong anyway, John.
Oh.
Those Star Trek films were very good Star Wars films.
You're right. You're absolutely correct.
Okay. I really shouldn't take another question from Altoid, but this one's funny. Speaking of magic, when is Trek's version of Unglued coming? Does everybody know what Unglued was?
The joke, so.
Charlie tried to do that, and I don't know. I don't think it's gonna work.
There have been several motions on the table to try and do an unglued set, and they've all been shot down. So I think the limited amount of resources that we have and are kind of already at capacity for what our current output is, and to try and add a joke set to that. I mean, really, I think our unglued set is tribbles. I mean, those are kind of where we get the joke cards. So, I mean, that's about as close as we're ever going to get, I think. Unless we magically come upon a new resource where we can produce a bunch of cards, I don't think unglued stuff will happen. Or we had the April Fool's joke with the Living Witness with the moving cards. That's about as close as we ever.
We got a backlog in not creative, but art. We got too many projects on the table to worry about jokes right now.
All right. So, is there anything else you guys want to cover before we close this up? We've hit the end of the questions.
I want to know where the money is. Alan, where's the money? All right. Who spent the money? Where's all the CC's money? It's like Fort Knox. There's no gold in Fort Knox. Did you steal the money, Alan? Answer the question.
I wish. I wish there was money. I wish I got paid as much as Charlie got paid. Wait, I do get paid as much as Charlie gets paid. So.
Yeah, he didn't take the money. He wouldn't. He sweats. He sweats when asked questions. Imagine if he did something wrong, he'd start crying. He'd crack in a minute.
Right.
Right away. That interrogation with Madrid last 2 seconds where Charlie played. How many lights do you see? 1, 2, 3. We're good. I'm sorry. Sorry, Madrid. Here's where all the information is. Here's where the Starfleet ships are. Sorry, sir.
And on that note, we will close off the 2E section of the period of review, thanks to Nick Yankovic, the brand manager, Matt Kirk, creative director, John Corbett, Errata team lead and designer, and Tyler Fultz, the rules team manager. The next portion of this will be next Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. That's October the 11th, and that will be first edition. So everyone, have yourselves a good day.